from Burlington, Vermont, is Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, I want to start with you on this question of Russian interference in the election. What do you make of it?
Well, I think when you have the intelligence agencies saying that that happened, when you have John McCain, when you have Democrats, when you have a bipartisan effort saying that we need an investigation, because this is very serious stuff, I think we go forward. But I don't want to go backwards. I mean, I think we've got to go forward. We've got to take a hard look at the role that the Russians played in this election process. We will see where the investigation goes. But for Donald Trump to summarily dismiss all of this makes no sense to me at all. But, John, I'll tell you what my major concern is right now, when I'm hearing from people all over Vermont and all over this country, is during the campaign, Mr. Trump made some promises. And what people want to know is he's going to keep the campaign promises that he made. He said, I, Donald Trump, am not going to cut Social Security. I'm not going to cut Medicare. I'm not going to cut Medicaid. And yet we're seeing Republicans in the Congress coming forward with devastating plans to cut Social Security, to cut Medicare. And I challenge Mr. Trump today. Tell the American people you're going to keep your campaign promises. Tell the Republicans to back off. No cuts to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and go forward with your campaign promise to lower the cost of prescription drugs.
But these promises or these ideas that are being floated by Republicans, as you point out, are not coming from Donald Trump himself. So you still give him the benefit of the doubt on that.
Well, but I think it's important when you appoint somebody like Congressman Price to be head of Health and Human Services agency, who has spent his career in trying to cut or privatize Medicare. I mean, that's not a good signal to send. So I think all that Mr. Trump has got to do today is to tell his Republican colleagues in the House and the Senate, back off, it ain't going to go anywhere. I'm going to veto any legislation that will cut Social Security, because I promised the American people that I would not do that. Look, we have people watching this program right now. We got disabled veterans watching this program right now who are trying to get by on $12,000, $13,000 a year in Social Security. And they are frightened about cuts to Social Security. My view is we have got to expand Social Security benefits by lifting the cap on taxable income. If we do that, we can extend Social Security for 50 years. Only the top 1.5% of people in this country will pay more in taxes. That's the right thing to do. But at the very least, President-elect Trump has got to reassure the American people he's going to keep his promises.
All right. Senator, we're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back in a minute with more from Senator Bernie Sanders. Don't go away. And we're back with Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator, just going back on this Russia question quickly before we move on, I just wanted to get a sense from you. Do you think a congressional investigation is sufficient, or do you have any other thoughts about how these reports should be responded to?
Well, I think, first of all, you need to get the facts, and I think that's what a bipartisan investigation should do. And once we get the facts, I think we go forward. But the word has got to go out to Russia, any other country on earth, that we are going to protect our democracy, that cybersecurity is very, very dangerous stuff, and we will not tolerate other countries interfering in the democratic process in this country.
You have some issues, although we just talked about on Social Security, where you disagree with the Republicans, but you have some issues where you could work with Donald Trump. We've talked about this before. Have they ever reached out to you? They've reached out to some Democrats, the president, Al Gore.
Well, I'm glad, by the way, that they reached out to Al Gore, because obviously the former vice president has played an enormously important role in educating the American people about the planetary crisis of climate change. But I will tell you, to answer your question, no, they have not reached out to me. I'm glad they reached out to Gore, but apparently they are not hearing what Gore had to say. The debate on climate change is over. Climate change is real. It's caused by human activity. It is already causing devastating problems. It is beyond my comprehension. It really is. When the entire planet is struggling to cut carbon emissions, that Mr. Trump would appoint somebody to be head of the EPA who is a denier. It's too late for that, and the American people are going to have to take matters into their own hands and demand, and in their own ways, state by state, transform our energy system away from fossil fuel.
Well, let me ask you about that. Those selections that Donald Trump has made to they go through, those that go through the Senate. You supported the so-called nuclear option, which means those nominations cannot be blocked by a filibuster. Do you regret having supported the nuclear option?
No, I don't. But we did that because Republicans were denying, obstructing President Obama in every way. making it impossible to appoint federal judges, district judges, and really paralyzing the judiciary branch. Many people there were not just getting the hearings they needed. We had to move forward. But right now, what concerns me very much is it looks like we have a cabinet of billionaires. I guess they have a few poor millionaires on it, but mostly it's billionaires. And this is coming from a candidate for president, Mr. Trump, who told us he was going to take on the establishment. Well, maybe I'm not seeing something here, but you don't appoint the head of Exxon Mobil to be Secretary of State. That's not quite taking on the establishment. You don't appoint a cabinet of billionaires to be taking on the establishment. So we will see how the hearings proceed, but I think there are a lot of very important questions that have to be asked of these nominees.
But without the filibuster, there's really not much Democrats can do in the Senate.
Well, I think we can expose, if somebody comes forward who tells us that climate change is not real and wants to be head of the EPA, well, we can bring in all of the scientific evidence all over this world to contradict that person and let the American people make a decision. And if we have somebody who thinks that we should cut Medicare, cut Social Security for disabled veterans, trust me, there will be a lot of very sharp questions of that.
All right, Senator Sanders, we have to end there. Thanks so much, and we'll be right back with